All right. So I'm going to be speaking about a current overview of microkeratomes. I have no financial interests. Okay. So let's begin with the principle itself. In a microkeratome, there is a precision oscillating blade which docks to a suction ring that ultimately helps us create the lamellar corneal flap when the cornea is held under pressure. And a typical components of a microkeratome system, whatever company it may be of, will have your console, motor, microkeratome head into which your blade is mounted, applanator lenses for you to check whether the pressure is adequate, vacuum fixation, a flap stop ring, and a foot switch, of course. This is what the different types of consoles look like based on the companies available in the market. There's a Moria, there's a Hansatome, there's an ML7, so on and so forth. And these are the motor and the microkeratome heads. Now, this is one of the most important parts of your assembly because this motor of the keratome is going to initiate the forward movement of your head and cause the oscillation of the blade, which ultimately creates your cut. So the modalities of microkeratome pass are of mainly two types. One is a rotational or a pivoting flap. The advantage of this is that lesser space is needed supposedly, and the hinge placement can be variable. But the disadvantage is that the flap is thick, thin, and thick because of the upward movement or the rotational movement or the pendular movement of the head. Typical examples of these would be Hansatome for the rotational movement and Cariazo for a pendular movement. Now, of these two, I have personal experience with the Hansatome, but I have never used the Cariazo. In a linear flap, on the other hand, there is great intra-op visibility during flap creation. There's a planar flap profile, but the disadvantage is that you are going to get a fixed hinge position, which is typically going to be nasal. And a bigger advantage that I feel having used both the Amadeus and the SBK is that the learning curve is very less. So for beginners, I would recommend a linear flap creation would always be a better choice. These are the types of heads that you have, again, based on whether your head is vertical or horizontal. That's how it will be placed, and that is what is going to obscure your visibility or otherwise make it more clear. The suction ring is what will induce your rise in IOP. So the first step is always the choosing the correct size of your suction ring, and that diameter is what will determine how much of your cornea will protrude into your microkeratome, which will help you determine your flap diameter. For this, it is always recommended that you follow the nomogram of the microkeratome that you are using so as to avoid mishaps. Having said that, if you are used to a particular system, because every company will have a newer and a newer nomogram every year that goes by. So if you are comfortable with your previous settings, then try to stick to them. Vacuum settings are very important. Again, when your machine is new, there will be a certain vacuum setting that is recommended by the company. And as you keep using and going on, the oscillation speed, the rotational movements can be changed as per your requirements. The placement of your suction ring, however it may be, is most important. You need to make sure that there is adequate scleral exposure on superior and inferior sides. You need to make sure that your IOP has been adequately achieved, which you can do with the help of a Baraka tonometer. My practical tips for the microkeratome, the most important message would be to briefly explain the procedure to the patient. This takes away half your trouble because the patient knows what to expect. Otherwise, there's a certain amount of anxiety during the surgery. And what I feel the most common mishap that can happen during a microkeratome LASIK is that when the oscillating blade starts moving, there's a vibrational sound and a movement that occurs, during which the patient tends to flinch or squeeze his eyes, and that's very often the time when you may actually lose your suction. So if you can just sit down for a few minutes before the procedure and talk the patient through the procedure, it solves your problem. Another practical tip that I advise for any microkeratome that you may be using is always assemble and inspect before you have started your procedure. Check the suction before each patient. Always do a trial pass before you actually do the procedure. And a very important message is to listen to the sound of the blade oscillation. So even if you are not doing the trial pass yourself, just hearing the sound, sometimes you can come to know that something is amiss. That means maybe you have to remount the blade or check the blade and look for something that's not right. Another tip that I was given by one of my mentors was to always do a marking on the cornea. Now, during my fellowship, when I did a humongous amount of cases, we never used a marking, but when I went into private practice, I was advised to do so. And out of 100 cases, you may just have one flap-related complication, but this marking will save you the trauma that that complication is going to cause to you. So I do advise to make a marking as well. The advantages of a mechanical microkeratome are the proven history, of course, the fact that it's being used for so many years. In this day and age, it still is the lower costly procedure as compared to femtosecond and SMILE. The process in general is shorter because of the fact that the flow of making the flap is going to be less than 30 seconds. And we must not forget that this can be very easily used to create a flap in an anterior stromal opacity or a scar. Of course, this also produces lesser inflammation. Now, coming to a few studies, this is a very interesting study about flap thickness variation with 3 types of microkeratome heads, where they compared the 1-use plus SPK, the M290 and the M2110, and it showed that the SPK demonstrated the most accurate flap thickness. There is a Cochrane study which has compared mechanical microkeratome to femtosecond LASIK, which shows that there is no difference in visual acuity, which we are pretty much aware of, but that dry eyes is more associated with microkeratome, and DLK, because of the inflammation, is more associated with femto LASIK. There is another study which is again very interesting, which compares the flap thickness in 6 different microkeratome models, and the conclusion is that there is variability in all models. So there's no one gold standard or universal standard that you can say that this is the best microkeratome. It will all depend on your learning curve and how comfortable you are with that machine. Device labeling did not represent the flap thickness. So just because your the head says that it's going to cut 90 microns or 110 microns, it may not do so. Initially, if you are a first timer, it is imperative that you do an anterior segment OCT to see what kind of flap thicknesses you are achieving, because the amount of pressure you apply will also determine your flap thickness. Also, thinner corneas had thinner flaps. Similarly, for thicker corneas, there were thicker flaps. And the first cut in the first eye of a bilateral procedure usually has a thicker flap. There is my own study, of course, in the Journal of Refractive Surgery with my team from Narayan Nethralaya, in which we have shown that there is definitely more flap predictability in a femtosecond when it was measured with a bioptogen. I just have a small video which I would like to play. How do I end this screen sharing? Are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see the video?
Yes, the video we can't see. We are seeing a thank you.
Okay. 1 second. Yes. All right. So is the video playing now?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So I would, after making a marking, we'd always like to dry up the bed. Make sure that there is adequate scleral exposure both superiorly and inferiorly, so that when you place your ring, you are achieving a good suction. Make sure that there are no eyelashes in the way. You can mount the head on the suction ring or do that separately. I prefer to do it separately. In this video, it's been shown mounted already. Pass line. The flap is created within a jiffy, and so that's all for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karishma.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a very insightful talk.
I hope the other chairpersons are here. Everybody is here. Dr. Rajendra Singh, Dr. Rajshekhar, everybody is here.
Everybody is here, yes, sir.
Great. I would invite the next speaker now, Dr. Virendra Agarwal. So we saw how perfectly flaps are made, and he will tell us about complications. And the next speaker after that would be about infections. Karishma, only one point that you made was correct, that even I do manual whenever we do microkeratome LASIK, I prefer to mark. But the mark, as you showed in your diagram, is para-radial. So that's one important point.
Yes, so that's another, yes, thank you for bringing that up. There are different types of marking that you do. So usually I make a V superiorly and one line temporally. But yeah, in this particular video, yes, I've made one on 180 degrees opposite. So yes.
Excellent.